breaker. This is going to be the ship side spawn. I think that's the best way to label it. And then we'll make the other spawn just sub side. This is a very basic kind of just draft game plan. Obviously, we'll work off of it and see what works, what doesn't work. But I think I've come up with some decent positions and different ways to play it. So I think we're going to label this side, obviously, is left over here. This doorway, I don't think we need to worry about too much, just because the only way up, there's no ladder or anything. The only way up is if they're using rune and they're using the grapple hook. So I think people coming up here will be pretty rare. Not that we're not going to cover it, I just think that you can play the left side with one player. Especially if he's playing as either Torque or Nomad, because then you can just use the equipment, whether it be the razor wire. I think Nomad might even be a little bit more effective, because then you can just shoot mines, at all sorts of different choke points in here, and then just kind of eliminate that altogether. And then as far as covering the actual left side, lots of different ways to do it. I think maybe the most effective would be to actually pull back a little bit farther to the snowplow here and actually look through the windows. This lets you actually see that doorway as well. So if, let's say, you don't have equipment up, this would be a good way to watch the doorway and the left side at the same time. The only issue I see with doing this is if we don't have the sub contained, if we're not pushed aggressive into the actual sub, if we have to pull back and play defensive and covering more like the exits of it. Obviously, you're a little bit exposed from those spots playing up here. And the right as well, if we're not under control of the right side. Basically, if anything goes down, like the sub goes down, if right goes down, you can't really play up here because you're exposed. So I think as often as you can play this position, this is a good way to do it. Or even just kind of like looking over the hood of the vehicle as well, maybe be a better position. Lots of different ways to kind of play this snowplow over here. But again, everything's got to be up in order to do it. If you can't play there because, like I was just saying, these positions are down or something, you could always play a little bit farther up. This is just a little tricky because obviously you have over here where they're going to round the corner, but you also have them coming from the inside angle here by going around the crate or coming up the water, and then they can hug the wall here and kind of come out at you at a different angle. So, a little trickier, but it is doable. Really, you'll just have to get creative. This will have to be a good gunfighting, creative player over here. But lots of things you do. You can even kind of shoot them at an angle, a 90 angle for a while. If you have your equipment up in here, you could even kind of be playing from inside, just to get like a kill or two. If you have to pull back a little bit more, you could always come play from like more this side. This is a little predictable though, in my opinion. Everybody kind of just looks here when you come around this corner, so maybe to get a kill or two, this wouldn't be bad. But lots of different ways you can play that. I'll kind of let you guys figure it out as we go. But I think most of the time we're going to get one player to this left side, two players into the actual sub. As long as we can, I think the longer we can hold the sub, the more effective this game plan is going to be. So I think having a top sub player and a bottom sub player is going to be the best way to do it. Whether that means all the way up, you can just kind of hold the inside doorways here. As you can see, they got a lot of choke points they got to go through on the top, pretty easy to control. Or I think you could probably even push a little bit farther and actually play kind of in here, and then you got the doorway over there, doorway on the other side, and then there's two ladders, which if you're holding it right, let's say you're setting up here, holding this side, and letting your partner be over on the other side, like maybe on the stairs, holding here, you're going to be able to see anybody coming up these ladders. What you will have to look out for is, again, you can only get up here with rune, but it's still something you have to account for. So this would be like, maybe if you're playing Torque, throwing equipment up here, or even better yet, Nomad, and like a mine up against the wall here. And then you're also going to have to block off this as well. This would be the bigger thing. So maybe, once you get a shield, let's see if I can actually get this up here. There we go. maybe just having a shield hold that for you while you guys control the top. So you'll have to get creative in here as well. They'll have to, be good communication between the two players to make sure everything's being held. You can even do it, by yourself temporarily. If a guy goes down, I think you can still manage to hold everything for a while until your partner gets back. If you do need to pull back, it's just too hot. They have control of the sub. They're, taking you out with grenades, whatever it might be. You're just not able to hold it. You could always pull back defensive as well. Maybe even be the best way to play it yet. I don't know. We'll have to see. But if you have to do that, then obviously your left player will have to move, and then you can just kind of play. I think there's two ways we can do it. We can have defensively. We can have one sub player controlling both entrances, and then have the extra player that was in the sub actually help left out, and then basically become left support. So one player would focus on the doorway, and one player would focus on the actual left side. Again, not playing from here because you'll be exposed, but playing more from like left support would take like a position like this or something, where he's only focused on that door, and then left could focus more just strictly on the left side, maybe playing from over here, or maybe even kind of cutting it off at an angle like this or something like that. But we could do that, and then you could just have one player play the whole sub. It might be a little trickier, but I think you can do it, especially if you're like a torque player or something. And then you can maybe set up a shield here, or there's a couple different spots you could do it. But otherwise, we just have the two players pull out of the sub, and one player simply hold the top, and one player hold the bottom. So, for instance, you could have a guy up here holding the top doorway, or honestly, just up here or something. You could probably pull out of the sub and still have a player up top, and then just have the last player focused on the bottom. However he's got to do it. Lots of different ways you can play it. So yeah, I mean, it's not a little more complicated than it was, but basically you would two ways to do it if we're defensive on the sub. Either pull both players out and both players pick a side, top or bottom, and hold it. Or you pull both players back, and then that player controls both exits, and you move the other sub player to the left side to help out left. And that's pretty much the most, I don't know, those are the ways I came up with. So 3 players will be pretty much, no matter what, left to middle, and then the remaining 3 players will be on the right side over here. I think what makes this map tough though too is the water on the right side. You do have to cover that. So best thing I came up with to do that is to have the player probably play like here. I think this is a good spot. Using a thermal would probably be the way to do it as well, because you should be able to see anybody swimming under the water using the thermal. If you don't, this is really dark and it's hard to see people, so you might be able to pull it off, but I think having a thermal would probably be the best way to do it. And you should just be able to pick them off as they come around the corner. And then that way you're also a close fill. If right is struggling and a guy goes down, you can kind of come out here and help as well, wherever they need you. And then the remaining 2 players, I didn't come up with too many cute spots over here, but you basically have to work together to cover the entrances, because you don't want to allow them this far up. If you allow them this far up the map, then you're gonna start having our center players exposed. So you need to cut them off a little farther up, just so you guys see what you're looking at. They are able to get through the water under the sub, so they'll be able to come up here through this center kind of alley, and then through this kind of narrower, more narrow choke point right here. So I did find a couple good angles if you want to cut off this whole side with one player. If you have to, for some reason your partner goes down, you can always play up here, or just to change it up from time to time. There's a good angle over here by the sub as well, which we'll have to see how it works in game, but it looks like you can look all the way down the right corridor, that little alley, and this guy should be able to lock that down and allow his other player over here a lot more freedom to kind of just cover the rest of this. So yeah, I don't know, we'll have to see how that goes. And again, your third player over here, the ring player, is the water player. We'll have to see what happens with the spawns. I know from playing this in the past, this map can be pretty crazy at times, and it spawns people behind you just at the stupidest times ever. So we may end up having to have the water player play farther back, like way back here somewhere. It'll probably be a lot trickier to hold, that's all, or to like protect his right players. We'll have to see. I don't know. I want to try starting, or trying it out with the guy farther up there at the wall up here covering the water, and then we'll see what happens. So, but that's pretty much it. Again, just kind of review. You have the two right players over here controlling the right side, working together, and then your water player as well over here, which can be a quick fill for right if needed. Because if right does go down, that's more important than the water. We can kind of hold off watching that for a second. I don't think it's going to get used as much. So if right goes down, filling right will be more important than holding the water. And then that leaves two players for the sub, especially if we're going aggressive. We're going to have two players inside. If we pull back, we're either going to have the option of playing one sub player defensively and then moving another player left to kind of give them more options to play left. So yeah, that's what I came up with. Again, this is just a draft. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure we'll rework it over time, but I think it's something good to start with. So, all right, that's it.